There was a lot of anticipation this week that House Speaker Joe Straus would reveal the committee assignments for the Texas House of Representatives. But unfortunately that was not to be, so hopefully that'll be next week. Whenever those committee assignments are announced, we'll have a much clearer picture of the political landscape and we'll be able to work on our issues and try to get our legislation passed. On the Senate side, they have already appointed those committees, and so they're a little bit further ahead. And in fact, on the Senate side, there was a new eminent domain reform bill filed this week. Senator Glenn Hegar filed Senate Bill 622 this week in an attempt to help reform eminent domain. This bill is not a comprehensive eminent domain bill, but it has some key provisions that really help our Farm Bureau members. One of those is compensation for diminished access. As you know or remember, Governor Perry and our positions are drastically different on this point. We feel that if property is taken and the property owner loses money on that remaining property because of diminished access, it should be paid for it. While on the other hand, Governor Perry thinks that it just costs too much money, so fair or not, they should not be paid for it. Well, Senator Hegar thinks that we should be paid for it as well, and his bill has provision that if diminished access causes property to lose value, that property owner should be paid. Another key provision in his bill is access to new highways. The philosophy now for building new highways is to have limited access so it's cheaper to build. Well, this could really hurt rural property owners for two reasons. They might have less access to that highway, and also if their property is split in two and they have very limited access, or they have to go 40 miles out of the way to get to the property that's on the other side of the road, it's just not going to be feasible for them to continue farming and ranching that property. Well, Senator Hegar's bill calls for access points at least every 5 miles in counties that have a population of 50,000 or less. This is still a fair distance, but it helps. It helps those property owners have access to that highway and possibly be able to continue farming and ranching their same property because they can go around that access point to get to that farm or ranch on the other side of the highway.
A significant announcement was made this week by the Senate's top transportation leader, Senator John Corona from Dallas County. In a letter to the governor, lieutenant governor, and all members of the legislature, Senator Corona outlined his suggestions on how best to meet the transportation needs of our state. Some of those suggestions include reducing the diversion of transportation revenue to non-transportation uses. The second is reducing the number of full-time TxDOT employees. And the third is indexing the motor fuels tax. Senator Corona believes that by implementing these suggestions, we'll be able to avoid or altogether minimize other proposals which have been discussed and have also been publicly criticized, such as toll roads or private equity, such as private-public partnerships and comprehensive development agreements. These suggestions truly are significant in that we can expect these concepts to be turned into bills over the next several weeks as session progresses. I also want to highlight several bills that have been introduced that directly benefit volunteer fire departments in Texas. Obviously, this is important to Farm Bureau members because volunteer fire departments are the primary emergency responders in rural Texas. Representatives David Farabee, Phil King, Aaron Pena, and Senator Craig Estes have each filed similar bills that exempt volunteer fire departments from state motor fuels taxes and diesel taxes. Obviously, this could be a big chunk of change for the volunteer fire departments to save in order to use for vital equipment and other needs. Lastly, I want to highlight two bills, each introduced by Representative Linda Harper Brown of Dallas County. The first is HB 827, and it deals with a vulnerable road user. A vulnerable road user is defined as somebody who is either on a bicycle, a pedestrian, working on the side of the road, on horseback, or operating equipment other than a motor vehicle, such as farm equipment. This bill would require the car or truck, that driver who is driving down the road, to pass the vulnerable road user at a safe distance and in another lane. Representative Harper Brown has also filed HB 273, which makes it a misdemeanor for drivers to unsafely pass a bicyclist. Our Farm Bureau members were very adamant in their opposition for certain roadways to be used by bicyclists for safety reasons. To that effect, Farm Bureau will continue to be involved and monitor these bills as they develop in order to best represent Farm Bureau's interests.